This week, I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Tom Giles. Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been married to Pauline for 50 years. We had our golden wedding. We have three children, Nicola, Paul and Kate. And we have five grandchildren. We have four boys and one girl. It's really our delight and privilege that all the grandchildren live really near us, so we get to see them regularly. COVID allowing, of course. I worked for 29 years full-time as a PE teacher, and then felt God call me not to spend all my working life as a teacher. And so I changed when I felt God asked me to leave teaching and come and work for church. And I did that for 18 years from 1998 to 2016.
What was that like being a Christian and being a teacher? Because in my experience, it was pretty tough.
PE teachers are generally reasonably popular. But whenever I used to walk down the corridor with my big box of Gideon's Bibles to run Christian Union, it was kind of like the more unacceptable face of Tom Giles. But I saw a lot of boys, came faithfully to Christian Union, and I used to encourage them to go to a Christian Union sports camp that I led in Basingstoke each year, and I saw a number of boys actually give their lives to Christ there, so that was very fulfilling.
Speaking of coming to Christ, how did you find Jesus yourself?
I went to Sunday school when I was a child, but it didn't really mean much to me. I can still remember telling my mum, I'm not going to go anymore, I'm going to play football on Sunday. I met Pauline at university. She was a Christian, went to Wellington Road Baptist Church in Liverpool. So when I went courting, to use an old-fashioned phrase, in Liverpool, her mum expected me to go to church 3 times every Sunday.
Quite right.
Yeah, I really liked the pastor. He was very, very kind to me. Often he would do the 3 services in the day, and then he would ask me how I was getting back to Manchester. And he would say, don't go on the train, I'll take you. And he used to talk to me about God in the car. And eventually, I think out of seeing his example particularly, I was very touched. And I did make a commitment to follow Christ. However, we then got married and came to live in Sale. And as we lived in Sale, we did go a little bit to Sale Baptist Church, but I didn't go very often. And actually, football was really important to me. So I, coached footballers and I played football twice a weekend. My whole weekend was taken up with football. So my following Christ was fairly poor, really. Then all of a sudden in 1976, my dad died, and it really rocked my world. And I went to Sale Baptist Church again. They had a young pastor who'd not long come called Mike Beaumont, who preached a very mean gospel, made it very clear that you were either a follower of Christ or you weren't. If he was Lord of all, then he's not Lord at all. And I really wrestled with the concept of giving my life to Christ a second time almost. Realizing that I'd made a poor job of making my commitment stick the first time. But I eventually decided it was something I was going to do, and I did that in 1977. And from then, I've always been a Christian, really, and been part of the church, and really love trying to get to know God better.
So you've been a Christian as a PE teacher, you've been a Christian as a pastor. How does your walk with God affect your daily life now?
Well, I think every time I read my Bible, I like to read it faithfully. I like to read Christian books, and I feel that God speaks to me. Every time I'm reading, there's usually something that always comes out. I'm reading the book of Proverbs at the moment, and there's a verse in there in Proverbs 18, verse 13, which says, he who answers before listening, that is his folly. And just something like that. Each day something speaks to me and makes me think that if I'm going to try and be more like Christ, I need to take that on board. I need to try and apply it in my life. So it's actually ever-changing attitudes and behavior, because I think that's what God expects of us.
That's fantastic.
I love sharing my faith with other people and encouraging them. There's a verse in 1 Corinthians 11 where Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ. And there's no way I'm comparing myself to St. Paul. But I do like to share with other people what Christ has been doing in my life, what he's been saying to me, and I hope it spurs them on and encourages them. So I actually love sharing my faith like that. And I think that's a big part of how God has changed me, really. The third thing I would say, really, is concerning, I suppose, being more thoughtful and being more caring of other people. Again, there's a verse in Philippians 2 which says each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. I think for the early part of my life, I was just very self-absorbed and very selfish. And I think now, what my relationship with Christ has done for me is it's made me think about other people. I actually really like helping other people in their illnesses, in their crises, just befriending people and helping them, as I said before, encouraging them on their journey of faith.
That's wonderful. Namesake, thank you so much for talking to us today. If I have to share my Gilesness with somebody, I'm glad it's you, and you're an absolute gift to the church.
Okay, thank you very much, Charles. You're very kind.